If you were swimming in the open ocean and a sperm whale decided to scan you, you wouldn't just hear it, you would feel it. It starts as a rhythmic hammering against your chest, a physical vibration strong enough to heat up the water between your fingers. That sound is a click, just one, but it is the loudest sound produced by any living animal on Earth. A jet engine at takeoff registers around 140 decibels. A sperm whale's click hits 230. It is a biological shockwave so powerful that at close range, it can vibrate a human body to the point of tissue damage. But they don't use this power to hurt us. They use it to see in a world where eyes are useless. Right now, 3 kilometers beneath the surface, one of these giants is hunting. It has dived into a vertical universe of crushing pressure and absolute darkness to find a monster that hides in the void. What happens in the next hour is not just a battle between predator and prey. It is a display of the most advanced biological engineering on the planet. This is the story of an animal that conquered the deep, survived a genocide by humanity, and is currently hiding a secret that might change how we define intelligence itself. To understand the sperm whale, you have to understand where it goes. The ocean surface is just the ceiling. The real world, their world, is the abyss. When a sperm whale takes a breath, it isn't just grabbing air. It is preparing for a journey into a hostile environment. As it descends, the water changes. The sunlight fades and vanishes. The temperature drops near freezing. But the real enemy is pressure. At 1,000 meters, the weight of the water is enough to collapse a human lung. At 2,000 meters, a submarine requires a titanium hull to keep from imploding. The sperm whale goes deeper. To survive this, it doesn't fight the ocean, it submits to it. The whale actively collapses its own lungs, shrinking them down to prevent nitrogen from entering the bloodstream. The same thing that gives human divers the bends. Its ribcage is flexible, bending inward under the crushing force without snapping. Its heart rate drops from 60 beats per minute to just 10. The blood flow to non-essential organs cuts off, redirecting oxygen solely to the brain and the muscles. The animal becomes a biological submarine, running on emergency power, drifting silently into the dark. It is looking for the kraken. For centuries, the giant squid was a myth, a sailor's nightmare. But we know they are real because we found the evidence carved into the skin of the whales. The sperm whale hunts them by sound. Inside its massive, square head is the spermaceti organ, a cavity filled with tons of liquid wax. This organ acts as an acoustic lens, focusing sound waves into a laser-like beam that shoots forward into the dark. It's scanning, mapping the darkness in 3 dimensions. When the sonar bounces back, it reveals a shape with arms longer than a bus and a body studded with razor-sharp hooks. The battle that follows is rarely seen, but the aftermath tells the story. Whales return to the surface scarred, their skin covered in circular sucker marks the size of dinner plates. They are fighting the largest invertebrates on Earth in pitch blackness, holding their breath and winning. But the giant squid was not their deadliest enemy. We were. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the sperm whale became the most lucrative creature on the planet. Ironically, the very thing that allowed them to hunt in the dark was what we use to light our cities. The oil inside their heads, spermaceti, burned brighter and cleaner than anything else. It lubricated the machines of the Industrial Revolution. It lit the street lamps of London and New York. We didn't just hunt them, we waged a war on them. This wasn't a passive harvest. Sperm whales fought back. The story of Moby Dick wasn't pure fiction. It was inspired by the sinking of the whale ship Essex in 1820, a massive bull sperm whale. Likely driven by rage or protection, rammed a 238-ton ship and sank it in the middle of the Pacific. Survivors reported that the whale didn't just strike blindly, it calculated. It pulled back, aimed, and delivered a killing blow. For 100 years, the ocean turned red. We killed over 1 million of them. We wiped out entire family lines. We destroyed genetic diversity that had taken millions of years to build. By the time the whaling moratorium was signed in 1986, we had pushed them to the absolute brink. They survived. But they didn't just survive by hiding, they survived by learning. Whalers in the 19th century noticed something terrifying. In the early days, whales would stay at the surface to defend their calves, making them easy targets. But within just a few years, the behavior changed. Whales across the ocean began swimming upwind of the sailing ships, knowing the boats couldn't follow them. They stopped making distress calls that attracted hunters. This knowledge spread faster than genetics could allow. It wasn't instinct, it was communication. They were telling each other what the ships were, they were sharing a strategy for survival. This brings us to the most unsettling realization about sperm whales. We spent centuries measuring them by barrels of oil, but we should have been measuring them by the size of their minds. The sperm whale possesses the largest brain to have ever existed on Earth. It is 6 times larger than a human brain. For a long time, science dismissed this, claiming the size was just to control a massive body. But that's not true. The areas of their brain devoted to processing sound and emotion are hyperdeveloped. They have spindle neurons, cells that in humans are linked to compassion, love, grief, and intuition. And they have had this complex brain structure for 15 million years longer than we have. While our ancestors were still figuring out how to use sharp rocks, sperm whales were already reciting epic poetry. In the deep, we see this intelligence in how they sleep. They drift vertically, massive gray pillars suspended in the blue, motionless. We see it in how they raise their young. Calves cannot dive deep, so the females take turns babysitting. While the mother hunts in the abyss, another female stays at the surface to protect the calf from orcas and sharks. It is a society built on cooperation, but the true proof of their intelligence is in the clicks. Sperm whales do not just make noise, they speak. They communicate in rhythmic patterns of clicks called codas. To the untrained ear, it sounds like Morse code. Click, click, pause, click. But when marine biologists started analyzing these sounds with artificial intelligence, they found a level of complexity that is frightening. These codas aren't random. They vary by region. A sperm whale from the Caribbean speaks a completely different dialect than a sperm whale from the Pacific. They have accents. They have cultural identity. Young whales are not born knowing these patterns. They have to be taught. They babble like human babies, practicing the clicks until they get the rhythm right. This is the definition of culture. Knowledge passed down from generation to generation, not through DNA, but through teaching. Researchers are now finding evidence of syntax. They combine clicks in different orders to change the meaning. They modify the tempo to convey emotion. We are looking at an animal that potentially has names for one another. They might be discussing the route of the migration, the location of squid, or the danger of the ships above. We have spent decades searching for extraterrestrial intelligence, scanning the stars for a signal. Meanwhile, there is an alien civilization patrolling our oceans, speaking a language we are only just beginning to decode. Even if you ignore their minds, you cannot ignore their impact. These animals are the engineers of the ocean because they feed in the deep and breathe at the surface. They create a vertical loop of nutrients. When they defecate at the surface, they release massive plumes of iron-rich fertilizer. This stimulates the growth of phytoplankton, the microscopic plants that generate half the oxygen we breathe. It is a beautiful irony. By hunting sperm whales, we were destroying the very system that keeps our own atmosphere breathable. A single whale captures as much carbon in its lifetime as thousands of trees, and even in death, they give back. When a whale dies and sinks, it becomes a whale fall. The carcass creates an oasis in the deep desert, feeding sharks, eels, and worms for decades. They are the gardeners of the sea, the guardians of the deep, and the keepers of a history we barely understand. There is a moment that divers talk about, a moment that changes you. You are floating in the blue, miles from land. The water is endless. And then, out of the haze, a shape appears. It's the size of a submarine, but it moves with a grace that defies physics. The whale approaches you. It doesn't attack, it doesn't flee, it turns its massive body and looks at you. You feel the clicks scanning your internal organs, reading your heartbeat. Consider the history. We harpooned them, we melted them down, we drove them to the edge of extinction. And yet, when we enter the water with them now, defenseless, they do not take revenge. They show curiosity. Maybe that is the ultimate sign of their intelligence. They have the power to kill us, but they choose to wonder about us instead. We are finally beginning to listen. And the more we listen, the more we realize that we are not alone on this planet. We share it with another mind, one that is ancient, deep, and waiting for us to say hello. If you want to dive deeper into the mysteries of the ocean's most intelligent giants, make sure you're subscribed. We are building a library of the unknown right here on this channel, and I want you to be a part of it. Hit that like button. If you learned something new today, and let me know in the comments, do you think we will ever fully translate the language of the whales? Thanks for watching.